G'day guys, Dave here from Old Rigs Down Under. Welcome to the latest video. I do apologise that I haven't had a video out in the last week or so. I've just been a bit crook and the weather's been a bit ordinary here, and as it quite often is in winter time, so just had limited opportunities in the last couple of weeks, so I do apologise. But anyway, the video I'm going to bring you today is the second in the series of the Kenny Archer rebuild. So we're at a stage, well, I'm at a stage of the project now where there's not great heaps of progress or, you know, really big shiny things happening. So it's a little bit mundane, some of it, but yeah, I rebuilt the compressor and done a little bit of work on the cab mounting at the front, and fitted an original battery box and oil filler, fitted some front hubs, and yeah, just sort of slowly getting through it. Something that I wasn't quite sure of initially, and probably still aren't quite sure of, is just how to mount the cabin. I overlooked the fact that it did have a hydraulic cab tilt from new, so that might be a path I'll go down as well. But anyway, there'll be a little bit of that as the project goes on, but I thought I should just show you a few of the little repairs I've done. I rebuilt the fan drive as well and put it back on the engine, so just slowly but surely I've got a few bits and pieces starting to go back into it. So I'll take you around and have a bit of a look at what I've done. So I've got a couple of bits and pieces here I'm going to put into this fan drive assembly. So this assembly sits on the front of the truck. That's an adjustment. This is here where it fits into a frame on the truck, and that clamps it all together. Your pulley sits out the front like that. So I'm not sure if this thing had been done up years ago or not. I've got a feeling maybe it had a new bearing or two in it, and that grease hole was left open, and it's just, you could spin it, you could spin the front of it on the pulley, and it was just a bit notchy. So found this big grease nipple here, which got a big thread on it, so that'll cover up that all right. That's the bearing that came out of it. A couple of dents in the end of it, that's from where I removed it. It still spins okay, but anyway, I was able to find a new bearing. It's just a basic roller bearing on the front of it. So the surfaces look good. So we'll put a couple of bearings in, put some grease in it, and sit our pulley back on the front. That'll just be retained with bolt, washer, and it just goes on the front in front of the bearing. And we'll have another piece of the puzzle sorted. Alright, I've just mounted that fan drive up, or fan pulley hub. Nice and quiet, no movement. Bit of fresh grease in there, a couple of bearings, it's good to see. So now I'll probably put that compressor on, I suppose. Clean that surface up, make up a couple of new hoses. I mean, that's only on there with a couple of bolts. I could lift that back out. I just wanted to make sure it was going to fit and make sure it was going to line up here. That was the main thing, and it's perfect, so all good. A few bits and pieces back here to put this compressor back together. So just the old pistons and rods. Now I ended up having the thing bored out a bit just because it was rusty inside. So I've got pistons to suit, some new rings, put a new bearing or bush into that back housing. The bearing that comes with the kit, it's another one that I had here anyway. And just going to put it all back together, piece by piece. So new gasket kit and valve kit. And I've got a couple new pistons there too. So anyway, Tu Flo 500 compressor will be hopefully as new again. So you've got the crankshaft in. So there's a new bearing in the front of it. And it's got a snap ring on it. and it fits in against that front housing, so it can't go any further forward. And then on the back of it, just see that little tab in there, that's a thrust washer. And the tab on the thrust washer, it goes into one of these slots here where my thumb is. Now, I actually replaced that cap because you can just see there's a crack on that back bolt hole. So, but there's a bush that goes in there. I replaced it too and put a new O-ring on the side of it. So there's the compressor, just about right to go. Nearly ready to bolt on. So the kit doesn't come with the correct size sump gasket. It's the right length but the wrong width. So I had to make my own. Or I'm making my own. So watch me stuff this up. Yeah, they're all snug. I'll come back and just give them a little bit more tomorrow or something like that, but other than that, that's our compressor ready to bolt back on. That's good. Beauty. Tu Flo 500 done. So this is the front of Kenyatta's chassis. These are homemade brackets for the bull bar. Yeah, they're pretty crude. Initially I thought I might hang on to them, but I'm pretty sure the best thing to do was just to go back to the original mounts with these braces, and then put on maybe a box off a Kato bull bar or something on there, something a little bit nicer, or just make something from scratch. It's obviously done a good job over time, but because I don't have the original bull bar anymore, and I'll be making a replica, I think it's probably time to get rid of these, just neaten it up a little bit. Also too, it'll make a bit of a difference where these go on, these cab brackets go on, and for the adjustment for the cab tilt. So this is off a little bit later truck. It's about a 77 or a 78 model, and you can see those 3 holes down there. They're the ones that pick up on the front of the chassis there, and here is your adjustment for your cab tilt. So just up here on the back of the parts trailer, here's another front mount with the cab mounts still in place. Now it's not perfect, but it might be a better start. There's our 3 bolts to mount the thing onto the chassis. Here's an adjustment for the cab tilt. So that might be a good thing. It's not the heaviest bar, but we're not going to be driving it out in the Simpson Desert too often. So there's the original style of battery box with the oil filter underneath it. Now they used a bit of a plate in under there, and this oil filter canister came with the engine. So the first of these V8s had the remote mounted filter like that, and it was probably about, I had a guess, about 1973 thereabouts before they went to the spin-on filters, maybe 72. So this engine has always had the lines or the hoses coming off the engine there. So I'm just going to make them to suit. I just wanted to get that battery box in line first, sitting there and making sure it was going to be okay. Easy said than done. All these old projects always take a bit of time to sort things out. I ended up getting these 2 brackets here off another chassis. The original ones were a bit bent, and I also just put a spacer block in between it as they don't sit square, because where it sits here on the chassis is on the angle, well, you know, the splayed out part of the chassis. So yeah, a little bit frustrating. And I checked a couple of other ones here, and because there's probably 3 or 4 FR series trucks here with this style of battery box bracket, and they're all the same, and the distance here is narrower than what it is up here. So just with a little spacer block, it's squared that up slightly, and I'm a bit happier about that. That was one of the brackets off the battery box. It's just got a bit of a bend in it, and the other one was cracked and caved in here, and you couldn't even get a socket onto the bottom bolt. So but that was good, and in the process managed to put some body bound bolts back in here again, which is good. I just got them off the other chassis. So yeah, a little bit of progress there, but I mean, doing that, there was probably 3 or 4 hours stuffing around doing that. I mean, you'd think you'd just be able to bolt the battery box on in half an hour, but anyway, these things take time. Pretty lucky in a lot of respects here to have the other trucks here, and also just to have a few things to, like a few parts to draw on as well. And there's a lot of shadows on the chassis where the original parts were on this truck, so I'm fairly fortunate there. So I'm going to put the brakes back together on this front axle today. I've got a few new bits and pieces for them, so I'll give you a bit of a look at what I'm doing. So I've got some old hubs, old style hubs, round spoke, like the rounder spokes still with the big studs. So that's what this truck should have had from new. It did have bigger, heavier hubs on it. So I've had the drums machined, just skimmed to fit on the back of them. The brakes are in really good nick. I've got a couple of new boosters to put on. And I've had some work done to these S-cam tubes. Now, these are a cam you can't buy anymore. So, get it out of there. Come on, you bastard. So, new bushes in there, and these surfaces have been built up. You can see where they've been done, welded and then machined down, and skimmed out those there to allow for a seal to go in there in both sides. So I'm going to set those up, grease them, shim them as necessary. Good thing about a lot of this American stuff, while that's smaller than a normal S-cam, the normal S-cam's about 1.5 inches. This size here, which I should know, but it's probably 1.25 inches, it's the same size as an anchor pin bush that you would find on normal S-cam brakes. So that's a good thing. So anyway, they'll be nice and tight in the front end. I mean, as a rule, you can see the amount of meat that's on those brakes. I mean, they probably don't work all that well at the best of times, but anyway, I've got some new wheel bearings to go in this hub, so I'm going to give that a clean up and put it all back together. So I've had these anchor pins out, they're adjustable and on an eccentric, as you can see there. So they're adjustable from the back side. The shoe fits onto there. Then they've got a spacer washer or a retainer plate with a circlip. So got to put that on there. Already done kingpins on this one a while ago, so we'll have a good tidy front end. Alrighty, so it's all back together. I ended up cutting that much out of off the rod there, but everything's nice and tight. It's good, ready for some brake shoes. Good times. Got some new wheel bearings to go in. Just giving that hub a bit of a clean up there. So knock the old bearings out. They were both nice and tight, which is a good start. Just flatten down that cap surface a little bit. So that's the drum. They're just old drums because you can't buy these ones anymore. So we just skimmed it, and still a couple of little cracks in it, and there's a bit of a ridge in it around there, but it's pretty good. And for what this truck's going to do, it'll be perfect. Righto, there we have the finished product. The old style spider on there, it's good. A little bit of progress. So new bearings, new hubcaps, they're pretty hard to find now. Used the original drums that came with those hubs, skimmed them like I said. You know, built up the S-cams, replaced bushers, fit them with seals, so it's as good as new that wheel end now, so I'm pretty happy with that. We've reinforced the back of those, the back of the spiders as well. A mate of mine did that, and I reckon it should be a good thing. Make it look nice and original. You know, it'll just give it that look that it's very early 70s, which it was. Yeah, those curved spiders really date them. They probably didn't use them after about 1973. So, all those trucks through the 60s, well, the ones through the 60s had the smaller wheel studs on them. These still use the same size wheel stud as the later spider wheel, but with the earlier hub, same bearing combination. So the early ones, like on the 60s F models and R models, actually used a smaller bearing combination, which are pretty hard to find now. So these ones are still the same as just the 5-6 ton front axle. So it'll do the job nicely. So something else I found out recently, is that old mate had shut his saw bench up over there. Anyway, another thing I found out recently, upon looking at a couple of other trucks, one either side of this particular chassis, the cab jack was mounted on these 2 bolts here, or that's sort of what we can ascertain. So there's another truck here like that, and the one I looked at just recently was the same as well. What they did, they used this piece here, which is on the Australian trucks. I don't know about the American ones, but that's a rear fuel tank bracket off an R model with a square tank. And they used that, and the cab jack bolted on the end there. There was a little angle bracket and it bolted on the end, and it stepped it out enough so that you could still bolt your exhaust onto that angled bracket sitting down on the spring hanger. So it was a little bit jammed up in there, but that's what it's been. You can see some old chassis shadows on this chassis here. That's been a diagonal cross brace in more recent times, but where that you can see the outline that's been on there, there was a bracket there for the air cleaner. Now on these early FRs with the fiberglass cabin, the air cleaner mounted here, and the induction came in through the cabin. So the air cleaner was hidden in under the cab. You couldn't, you know, back here on the chassis there was nothing. So if I can, that's what I'm going to try and do again, just to show that feature off. I think I've got enough of bits and pieces to be able to recreate that. So this is the fiberglass cab from Ken's truck, and you can see where the air cleaner sits. They used to have a rubber grommet, like a thick rubber grommet there that came down on the top of an air cleaner, and so that gave you your little bit of movement in your cab suspension, and the air cleaner sat just under there. Also, to go a little bit further under here, you can see these brackets here, and that's where the cab jack's been. And there's one of those on each side. So I'm pretty tempted to go back to that original cab jack idea, providing the ducting in this cabin is free. And when I say free, I mean free of restrictions and damage and blocking and that sort of thing. I'd love to be able to go back to that original setup. So here's the fiberglass cab. I'm not really sure if in an old video we've had a bit of a look at this or not, but you can tell the fiberglass cab easily because they don't have a guttering. Now this early one's got fiberglass doors. You can see where the fiberglass is split up there. Now from new, they had a vertical grab rail on there. Sorry, there to there. And then they just used the step just down under the mudguard. And then these unitized step and grab handles came out in about 72 or 73. So you can tell an early one, and the GM powered truck that I've got here is an early one. It's slightly earlier than Kenny's truck, and it's still got the original handle on it. Kenny's had the handle on it from new, but it was changed later in life. Fairly early on in its life, actually. These indicators were quite often a feature on the fiberglass cabs. This is an early fiberglass cab, and the wiper location's in the same place as a steel cab. The later ones, like the slimline twin steer, it had them coming out through the front. And you can see the air intake up there. I'll show you quickly inside the cab. I'm not really sure if you've seen that yet. It's not in bad nick. It was painted gold at one time in its life, and that interior was done there, but it's just starting to crack there, which the GM cab's done as well. And there's a couple of repairs in it. You can see up in behind that fan, it's split, so that'll have to come apart. And in turn, that's split and broken the support for the windscreen there. So, but yeah, different dash layout to the other F models. These cabins were made by Reinforced Plastics, which was an Australian company, and that dates it pretty well there. So that's 31st of the 7th, 71. That's obviously cab completion time, and the truck was sold in early September. So they got the truck ready in August and groomed it, and by September it was on the road. Another view here of that early Spider, round spokes, the bracket, or the step under the cab, and the vertical grab rail. All very original. Righto guys, I reckon I'll just about leave this video here for today. Thank you for watching, thanks for your patience. Slowly getting a little bit done on Kenny's truck, which is good. Probably at a little bit of a boring stage of the restoration at the moment. There's not a lot of big stuff happening, you know, like I mentioned earlier in the video. It's not big and flashy and shiny and all that sort of thing. When you see a restored vehicle of any kind, you know, you see the paint, and you see the work that's gone into it, and you know, you see the finished product and it looks good. So obviously we're a little way off that, but it's just a little bit of an insight into the work that goes into a good restoration. So this one here, I want to try and sort of build as much of it as I possibly can, particularly the front end where the cab goes, build it to a point where it's all dummy fitted, and then pulled apart again for painting. So I know that's a lot of work, but yeah, at the moment, look, obviously that engine started its life in this chassis, but it's spent a fair, you know, the last presumably 10 or 12 years or whatever it might have been with the 350 4-valve 6-cylinder in there. So a few things were changed. The power steering was changed. The air intake was changed. Front hubs were changed. Oil filter system was changed. So a lot of that stuff, I'm just trying to go back to original while still keeping it as practical as possible. So yeah, like I said, a little bit of a boring, mundane part of the build at the moment, but it's all in the lead up to trying to make it look as good as it possibly can for a finished product. So been trying to do a little bit on it each week, and with another few weeks or a month of little bits of progress each week, slowly start to run out of stuff to do on the front of it. And then, you know, I'd like to sit the cab back on it and see what it's going to look like in terms of the air cleaner going back to here, like I mentioned earlier. see how it's going to look with accelerator linkage, see how much room I'm going to have underneath to put like on the cab lockdown gantry, to put a power steering canister. Just little things like that. They're all things that I want to try and do. And then the engine starting up will probably come after that. So at the moment, it's just a matter of getting the steering right. You know, getting these hubs have been done. Just got to work out the power steering pump that I'm using on the engine. Just got a couple of little queries about that one at the moment. I might do a video about that at a later date. But anyway, things are going along okay with it. It's a bit of a cold, miserable time of year. Don't really feel like doing a lot some days, so to get a little bit done on it here and there is pretty good. And then the days are starting to get longer now. And over the course of the next few months, you know, you might just see a little bit of progress. And like I say, really hope to get to that point later in the year sometime where I can start that engine up. But before that happens, there's a few other things that have to be fixed and fitted. And that's what these videos are going to be around. So just another compilation will be coming out next month, just of little bits and pieces that I've done after this current lot of work. So on that note, thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're enjoying the progress on Ken's truck, and over the course of time with the series of these videos, you will see it come together, and you'll be able to look back on it and say, well, you know, remember it when the cab was off it, or remember it when the hubs were off it, or whatever it might have been. So it'll be good to look back on, and yeah, hopefully it doesn't take me forever to do it. So, but anyway, thanks again, and I'll see you on the next one.